Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the Think Reboot YouTube channel where we talk about the religion of Islam from a convert's perspective. Today we're going to be watching together a video called What is the Nature of God in Islam? By Imam Tom, which is someone that I interviewed on my channel, and he's on one of my favorite YouTube channels, which is called Utica Masjid. So I definitely recommend that you go over to that channel and you subscribe to him and watch more of his videos. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
The nature of God within Islam is between two extremes. It's between the extreme of negative theology, which imagines a God that's completely indescribable, remote. You can't even talk about it, what it is and what it's not. It exists and doesn't exist, all this sort of nonsense. And the extreme of incarnation, imagining that, God came into earth and was encompassed and alive within this earth and lived like part of the creation. So the concept of God in Islam.
For me, as someone who grew up as a Christian, this is something which is just I was never able to understand. How could Almighty God, the all-powerful, the knower of the seen and the unseen, the future and the past, the master of everything, how could he come to earth as a human being and be born the way that we're born and have to use the bathroom and have natural human urges? This is not something that ever made sense to me, and it's not something that I think is befitting the majesty of Almighty God.
Lived like part of the creation. So the concept of earth and was encompassed and alive within this earth and lived like part of the creation. So the concept of God in Islam.
I mean, like, if you actually ask the question to a Christian and you actually say to them, are you saying that Almighty God used the bathroom? He passed wind. He urinated. This is, for us as Muslims, like, this is blasphemy. No Muslim will ever say this. So I find it strange as a Christian, how can you actually accept this as your ideology? Because when you're questioned, do you believe that Almighty God, when he was in the form of a man, he passed wind, and you say yes? As Muslims, that's blasphemy. That's not something that we could ever say.
Came into earth and was encompassed and alive within this earth and lived like part of the creation. So the concept of God in Islam is in between those two extremes. Okay, we do believe in a dualistic universe. That means that there is a strict binary between creator and created when it comes to essence, being, entity, right? And there is no sort of permeability between those two realms. Okay, by definition, the creator is perfect without any needs, has all these specific attributes that are due only to him. And then the creation is defined by need and defined by contingency and defined by imperfection and finiteness and all these sorts of things. So it is a strict binary. However, that doesn't mean that there is not an intimacy of relationship or activity between the divine and the not divine, or between the creator and the created. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge and his activity, his love, his mercy, his goodwill, these are things that permeate the creation. They are baked into the fabric of creation. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creative input, right, or the characteristics, not saying that the entity is found in the creation, but the imprint of that being's activity is found readily in the creation. And so we're between two extremes, right? Again, negative theology, the idea that God, and this came from Neoplatonism and other sorts of traditions, that God is so remote, that it's so ineffable, you can't say anything about him, right? That then we would say, what, you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in a God at all. Such a God is not really a God at all, just an abstraction. God's not just
I find that since I converted to Islam, that the right path is always the middle path, and it's between the two extremes. So someone who is a Muslim, they should neither be so neglectful of their religion, nor should they be so extreme in their religion. They should follow the middle path.
It's an abstraction. And also on the opposite extreme, incarnation, to imagine that we have to have this incarnate God that walked along the earth with us in human form, that's the only sort of way to focus our devotion and our worship. We also reject that idea out of hand. So the God in Islam, or the conception of Allah, is in between those two extremes.
Beautiful video. I know it's only short, but inshallah we're going to be watching more of these from Imam Tom. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please go ahead and subscribe to his channel. It will be linked in the description. I find it very, very useful and I love listening to it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.